I want you guys to go to www.bishop.edu. If you head on over there, you will find programs and career technical education, truck driving in particular. And if you end up in that program, you're going to end up meeting Wade Chico McCollum. It's good to have you, Chico. Good morning. Welcome to Road Gang Radio and Education Station. How are you doing today?
Oh, we're doing wonderful. Doing our normal man. It's cold. Colder than my students are probably used to. You know, we don't get it like we're getting it right now, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is. It is something else. And my co-host, as you might have heard, is over in Nashville, Tennessee. I had to fly in indirectly back from Belize. And, man, she came up to a world of exploding trees and ripped down power lines and a meter that had been tore off her house. Had to drop $3,800 to simply get some power back on and going. No running water. A husband and a daughter that are terribly ill. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff going on. You guys are hanging in there. Tell us about Bishop State. Let's just first kind of start off with giving us the 30,000-foot view of Bishop State, where it is, what it stands for, and what you guys are kind of, cooking up and dreaming up over the course of the coming year.
All right, so Bishop State Community College, first of all, is in Mobile, Alabama. We offer your onboarding, you're first getting into college, coming out of high school type stuff. We also offer to where, you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and you've decided, hey, I'm going to go back to school, but let me knock out some of these classes before I go to the other school or something like that. But on the career technical side, we have a lot of different programs, diesel technology, automotive, AC, welding. We're also very big in with the building of the airplanes and submarines and stuff. And then, of course, our truck driving program.
By the way, in case you guys don't know, this is a state-supported urban community college. It is located in Mobile, but it's got 4 city campuses. And in many ways, we kind of always distinguish this as well, too. It is community-focused, that a lot of people think that, when you get a CDL or you go to truck driving school or anything, you just get a truck driving thing to kind of just throw people out there. But the school itself, the community college, is responding to the needs of its community. They're called that for a reason. Can you kind of talk about the partnership you have, because that's really what, in so many ways, particularly in an urban environment, it really is about forging partnerships so that people, as you've mentioned already, some of the programs you have, but it really is about offering people opportunity. This is one of the differences here, is that it's not just a sort of general education. These are people looking to work in certain fields, and along with the education you're offering the opportunity to have connection and contact to stay in the community and build a life and a career there, correct?
Yes, sir, we do. Now, the facility I actually teach at is in Jackson, Alabama, which is just an hour north of Mobile. We just knew that we had a lot of potential up here, and there's another state school, another hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on which direction you go from here. But it just kind of gave us another place to root and be able to help this community with not only local drivers, but also drivers or the potential over-the-road driver. But back in Mobile, we have our main campus of truck driving that we're teaching students, but we also do deals with like the local water company and the gas company. I've personally done classes with Rush Peterbilt and other mechanical-based shops to where there's folks would come to me and I would work with them because they're mechanics and they have never gotten a CDL. And so it helps them get their CDL to where they can test drive the trucks. And like I have a gentleman from north of me from a Mac dealer that's actually in my class now. A little bit different program, but the program is set up, or these programs are set up so these individuals can get a CDL, and it helps them, A, get a raise, but it also allows them to be just a little bit more powerful of an employee for the company. It just gives them a little more flexibility to say, hey, Joe, you can drive a truck now. I need you to do this, or I need you to do that, and not just be stuck to dig in a ditch.
But what I really love about this, by the way, and in many ways you're kind of laying out for people, and we've talked about this on this segment and all across the thing. I think that the employee of tomorrow, he or she speaks a second language. He or she has a technical acumen. He or she actually is able to write a work order, is able to do has math skills that allow them to kind of technically keep up with the changes, and also is a person who is not adverse to doing exactly what you're talking about to continue to increase their skill set, meaning that exactly what you refer to. The guy that works at the dealership who needs to have a better understanding for the people that he talks to and is able to talk to people in a way that says, not only do I understand, I empathize because I've been in that seat and I know exactly what it feels like and how it works and how it functions. I may not have the over-the-road experience, but I certainly have an idea of how these things handle. All of those kind of things are options, which means you have a diverse group of students. And so I would kind of begin by saying that unlike a traditional college where it's 18 to 22, 23-year-old kids kind of coming in to get their start in life, you have a lot of people who are coming in and reinventing your life. How do you position trainers and instructors to understand that and to use different teaching methodologies with the students while at the same time going through the curriculum and the lesson plans properly to make sure everybody gets the information they need?
The fun part about that is, for me, I'm talking with the students as they're slowly onboarding and they're going through the proper channels to get registered for class and do all this. I'm usually hands-on with a lot of that with all of my students, and at that point in time, I'm starting to evaluate them just in conversation, and then once they're sitting in front of me and my lab assistants that work for me, we constantly in communication. Okay, well, Jimmy Mack went out with you today. What did he do? What are the things we need to start paying attention to? So we're constantly evaluating and understanding where a student is, and like for instance, we get people that are green. It's nothing for us to have a person walk in the door 55, 60 years old. It's never, the closest they've been to a truck is one passing them on the interstate. And so now, they never check the oil or check the tire pressure. Now we're teaching them all of this stuff. But at the same time, we get that student whose mom and dad own a trucking company, and they've got some experience around the trucks, but at the same time, we start to teach them things they probably didn't know about the trucks because they run local. They're not used to running over the road, or, hey, it's wintertime, and as you guys were talking about earlier, when you're up north, the fuel, it has additives for the cold, whereas down here in the South, we don't have that. Same thing with windshield washer fluid and things like that. So we start trying to educate, and we grab each student and we try to bring them all to a level playing field, but at the same time, understanding we got to get a little deeper with this student, whereas this student understands, and then sometimes the great part is students might explain something to someone in a way that just might lyrically roll off their tongue, and we've explained it 100 times, and it might just, the light bulb finally came on, and was it the way the student said it, or was it the way we said it? And so we built a really neat community with all the students as we're learning and working forward. And I really push teamwork, because the one thing I always hear my buddies say, it wasn't like that, back in my day, and my opinion is if you're still driving, it's your day. So, hey, what can you do to help your fellow driver? And so that's something we really push here, as well as, okay, wait a minute, this guy's having problems. Let's get him caught up to everyone else,
I really love that. There's a couple of things I want to unpack here. The lyrical line, beautiful. The idea of building community, terrific. And if you're still driving, it is in fact your day. It almost reminds me of that great moment from Fast Times at Ridgemont High when he orders the pizza. He said, well, I figure I'm here. He said, remember, I figure I'm here, and I figure you're here. So doesn't it make it our time? Yeah. And what's wrong with having a little pizza and learning about Cuba on our time? And, of course, Mr. Hand flips the script on him and takes his pizza for everybody else, too, to give them all a stack. But that being said, there is a certain kind of beautiful logic to that, because the idea of when you're teaching a class, the first thing you kind of focused on is building that community, and you can't build a community unless they all speak the same language. So it really is a matter of figuring out where everybody is on the language scale and then figuring out ways to get people caught up. But I also love the idea that the best teachers are always looking for better teaching tactics. And if you hear a student explain something and another student gets it, that great feeling of the light bulb going off in their head, then you can then
Yeah.
pivot and be like, the next time I run into a student like that, I'm going to use what that student used to help get them up to speed. It's one more tool for the toolbox. So as you guys are looking for trainers, you're looking for people who are open and curious about ways of teaching that break through and cause the light bulb moment, right?
Yes. Um, it's funny. I have one guy that's always, he works for me, and he'll raise his hand in the back of the room, and he'll be like, "Okay, so Jimmy, he asked, he said, he heard you say that you've done da 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 da, and you just sitting there shaking your head because you didn't ask nothing." And it's funny because he'll ask the questions the students don't want to ask, and so that also helps with the community. But it is so funny when he does it, the look on their faces, because he's always behind them and I'm always in front of them, so it's really funny. But yeah, trying to get everyone on the same playing field, or being able to communicate certain things a certain way, and then, hey, wait a minute, he said what? Oh wow, it's like I had a young lady tell me one day. She said, "So what you're telling me is if I'm looking in the mirror and I turn my wheel to the side of the trailer that I can see as I'm backing up, I can straighten my truck." Well, I've been explaining it totally different than that, and I'm like, light bulb.
Yeah, she heard it. She
And,
heard it. She actually she
yeah, and
made the metaphorical analogy in her brain, and then and by the way, she looked in the mirror. She metaphorically looked in the mirror and was able to reverse the image in her own head and say, "Wait a minute, got it, got it." So I mean, basically,
right,
it's the version of, "Wait, are you saying this in a different language?" That's exactly what I'm saying. And even if they don't get
right,
it right,
right.
at least you know what they're kind of doing right there. So I'm going to ask you, like I said, you've already kind of given us a little tip off here. What are you looking for in instructors? What are you looking for in regards to the men and women who are going to teach the next generation of drivers, whether they are 60 or 26?
Passion. Passion for the industry, passion that they love driving a truck or being around trucks, and passion with working with other people, wanting to pass on that knowledge. At the same time, being humble enough to know that they're not always right, they're not always the smartest person in the room. Passion.
It makes a big difference. It really does, because the thing is, it's like with a teacher, if a teacher walks in with the idea that he or she is actually going to be engaged in their own learning experience and going to actually deepen their own knowledge of stuff, either through the student's experience or through the stuff that you and the student don't know together and you go find out together, it makes for a better learning experience. So with these kind of teachers in place, and you talked about the 60-year-olds without a lick of experience, and and the 19-year-old who actually walks in, who's been driving semis and and forklifts his entire life over at the family warehouse. What is the lesson plan look like? How do you guys break down the dissemination of information and give it to people in a way that is both digestible while leaving space open to deal with individual students' needs? That's a lot.
So starting off, we kind of have we kind of have we start off at a certain point. First and foremost, how many people walked in the door and what program? How are you coming through my door? Did you pay? Did someone else pay? Are you part of this program or that program? And they're all sitting there, and I'm looking at them, and I break down the things that we intend on them learning before they walk out the door, part of what they're getting graded for, and and what we hope to see happen, and we start on a level playing field. And then we start finding out who our star players are, which that'll happen really quick. I get a lot of people, I can drive, and I'll say, well, we'll see. And I tell them all the time, and a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy when I say this. I want you to be able to back better than driving forward when you leave me. Okay, because I see it as when you leave me and you go to work, be it for your uncle or for a bigger carrier or a local trucking company, or you go back to work with your local municipality that we may be doing a class for, that they have a trainer that's going to grab you from where we left off and continue the education. To me, it's on the company and the driver, the individual, to continue their education into trucking or driving a truck. The fun part is once again, we get them all on a level playing field, and even though they say they know this, they know that, or whatever, we still drive it. We're still constantly pumping it, pre-trip, backing, and then other little things that may come into it. And I'll tell them little things that, hey, this might happen to you while you're on the road. And these are the things you need to have in your tool bag. Like, for instance, y'all were talking earlier about the brakes, and needing a ball peen hammer. Um, some PB blaster and a ball peen hammer when you're trying to slide tandems and they're old, or rusty. So there are a lot of little things tidbits we throw in. And the beauty about, like, down on our main campus and the campus here, a lot of our lab assistants come from different forms of trucking, be it reefer, be it flatbed, be it a tanker, oversize or whatever.
Yeah, and by the way, you sound a lot like our friend Donnie Tulk, who loves to say, I don't get paid to teach you how to drive. I get paid to teach you how to back up." Because in
Right.
many ways, as simple as that action is, as a foundational thing for teaching, it changes your relationship with the truck, because you begin to understand the scope and size of the thing. Nothing helps you understand a truck better than backing it up, because it is a lot. I watched the other day. We do our broadcast here on Esplanade Avenue in the heart of what I call the tourist area of New Orleans. But there are still grocery stores that need big trucks to come in. And watching some of these men, how they have figured out that the best place for them to kind of muster is over by the New Orleans Fairgrounds, which is the only big space in this area, and to watch them navigate this is it's a masterpiece of backing up. And if you can master that skill and you can give people enough time to kind of get the repetitions in, that's the other big thing when you actually put the rubber to the road, is giving people enough rep time. And that's often something that escapes a lot of programs. How do we get people enough practice to get better, while at the same time understanding that there's no better practice than doing the job? So how do you actually take the nerves out of people and give them the reps necessary so that they walk out with some sense of, maybe I can do this? This also comes back, we'll get to partners in a second, because you want to turn these people over to people who understand you don't have a perfect truck driver that is coming out. You have somebody who has a complete understanding of what they have to do, but they don't always have the reps in. I'm repeating myself, but I did that on purpose to make sure I was clear.
So I'm going to answer this by going with what you just said. So first of all, I love New Orleans. I've always loved New Orleans. I almost thought about moving there. But in my trucking career, I have delivered all over that place. And there was one customer, I used to have to be there at 6 a.m. to back down an alley on Magazine Street with a straight truck. And
Oh,
I had
my
to
God.
be in and out. Because if I wasn't in and out, you wouldn't be able to get out because everybody would park. And this was a long time ago, so I would lay across the street, and I'd get there real early, and I'd sleep, and then I'd wake up, and they would be there, and I'd, back in, we would unload, and I'd get out. But then let's go over to Shopatula Street. Did I say that right? Because,
pretty darn good.
The Cajuns and the Coonasses and the locals there. Anyhow, the Shopatulas, I would go down there and I would deliver to Liberty Lumber, and the fun part there is how do you get out of here? Because you get to a point there's no trucks, and we used to could make a right, make a left, make a left, make a left, and come out. And then there was another spot where we could make a left and trucks go, but there's one corner that if you can't drive a truck, you're not going to make that turn to be able to get out because of where cars are parked. And then you could go down to the hospital, and then you would back and then do some weird little turnaround stuff there that if you didn't have trucking skills that you could back or make a turn. And that's something else I push. I have video footage of me driving, say, in the Louisiana area, Mississippi area, making tight turns in a big Peterbilt. I believe in my thing I sent you, the green and gray Peterbilt, which I drove that for a buddy of mine out of Cottonport, Louisiana. But being able to back a truck efficiently and make a delivery and be able to get in and out and not have to, cause a major backup out on a road. And the next thing you know, you got people trying to cut around you and all that good stuff. It comes with inefficiency at backing. So what we do here is we have a handful of docks we'll take the students to and let them actually bump a real dock. And then we also take them to truck stops and have them back. So they're getting some real life experience of backing other than just my backing pad. But we do straight line. I teach them how to offset right and left. They learn how to parallel part right and left. serpentine, and then of course the new backing exercises that they have to do, and or forward stop and the out left offset. We work over all of this so that they can be efficient when they leave here.
Yeah, and by the way, the other kind of lesson, and I'm kind of curious about this one. It just makes me. I'm always kind of fascinated by this, to teach people to calm down and slow down so they can speed up. Because one of the problems
Yeah.
is with a young driver, when he or she starts backing that truck up and they have that panic moment of I'm blocking traffic, they start to push and rush things. And you're like, dude, this is going to take as long as it's going to take. And the faster you try to make this go, trust me, it's going to take longer and longer. So it's also,
Mm-hmm.
there's also part, it's not just teaching, it's genuine coaching where you're like, you need to
Yes.
steady yourself. I hate to say this, you've got to find almost a mindful Zen place to do this properly,
Yeah.
because I've watched producers do this. Fortunately, none of the ones that are working for me now, where they literally shut down because something has gone wrong. You're off the air, something's gone sideways, and you're like, the best thing you can do right now is take a breath and realize it's going to take as long as it's going to take. So part of that is getting people psychologically ready for what the road means. Can you talk a little bit about the lifestyle approaches you guys take to make sure they understand fully what they're getting themselves into? Because a lot of programs don't do that. They're just like, money, 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 here it comes, get those wheels turning, and you start earning. And you're like, no. How do you kind of
No,
prepare
no, no, no,
people
no.
for the realities?
So the fun part is every day after the first day, I kind of give the students a breakdown of what each day may look like as we move forward. Like, and I'll always ask them at the end of the day, did you learn anything? And then they'll be like, well, yeah, I don't know this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, give me something specific. And then, okay, tomorrow, this is my plans. And then what will happen is my plans won't go the way they are. And I tell the students, there's always plan A. And we may have a plan B, but then again, plan C is we're going to make it up as we go. And this is something that, comes from the musician side of me. Sometimes things just don't work the way they're supposed to in a production kind of way. The lighting is not doing what it's supposed to do. The backing track's not working the way it's supposed to if you're using one of those. Or, wait a minute, my snare drum mic is just not, it's not working. And, all the different little things that I've learned over the years. And to bring this back to the trucking side of things, when I started working as a trainer for Greenbush Logistics, here I am, earrings and mohawk, and sometimes it might be a different color. I'm getting ready to hop in a truck with a gentleman that's, 20, 25 years my senior, and they're looking at me. I got shorts on and my uniform shirt, and it's 30 degrees outside, and they're like, what the hell's with this weird dude? When I get in the truck, my attitude has always been, what are we going to learn today? What are we going to learn today? My job is to teach you about what the company expects of you, not how to drive a truck, because you had to have so many years experience to get that job. But at the same time, hey, teach me something, Jimmy. You've been in radio forever, and I've been playing music. Hey, teach me something besides, da-da-da or whatever. And I take that same kind of culture to my classroom. And, of course, now we start talking music or we start talking movies. And so back on the backing, and you're trying to get in a place, and now your nerves are crazy. I'm like, hey, bro, you Debo. You're Debo from Friday. You're the big guy, okay? Take your time, do what you need to do to get in safely to where you're not about to be in an accident, that you're not going to hit something. Get out and look. I don't care if you got to get out 100 times. Get out and look, because 100 times is better than 30 minutes waiting on a police officer and another 30 minutes filling out accident reports, and there went your safety bonus, or you got fired.
By the way, you and I have something really fun in common. They happened in different newspapers, but the entertainment section of our local newspapers are called Lanyap. You and I have both been on the cover of Lanyap in our particular cities. And like you said,
Yeah.
you alluded to the fact that, we've talked about this before. You are a drummer, just like Dave Nemo is, and, you talk about the idea of that lyrical thing. Being able to think about what it is you're teaching and do it in a way that actually translates into the other thing that you love, because there really is, and you'll love this, by the way. Kevin Lindsay, who does Maintenance Matters, talks about listening to a truck when everything is where it should be. There's a natural harmonic to all of this stuff.
Yes.
And I just love that
Yes.
term, and it applies to the way you teach and the way you approach a truck, does it not?
Yes, sir, it does. Matter of fact, I tell my students you're going to learn to use all five senses, and I'll break it down, and I use taste as the last one. And they're looking at me, and I said, yeah, if you got an air leak behind your dash and it's got a little water and oil in that air, you're going to taste it. If you got bad batteries, you're going to taste it. If there's a hose under the hood that's got coolant going through it, and it's aspirating into the air, you're going to taste it. It's just what it is. And learning to use all five senses and getting in a harmony with the whole truck thing. It's like the air warning light and the alarm. I tell them the light's way more important than the alarm, because you might be riding down the road listening to some trap music, and you selling, while you're driving, you singing the rap song, selling all the stuff that the rap song's selling, and all of a sudden, alarms start going off, and it's going along with the same rhythm, and it's in the harmonics of the of the song you rocking out to, and the next thing you know, your brakes are about to lock up because you weren't looking at the dash. It's part of that. Let me check my mirrors, every 5 to 8 seconds. Well, let me check my dash while I'm checking these mirrors, because, and checking out the side window. Let's make sure we're paying attention to these things.
By the way, we got to let you go. We could talk all morning with you, by the way. I just
Yes,
always
sir.
love to say, syncopate with that steering wheel, and you're going to be just okay. It's a matter of syncopation rather than being in perfect harmony with it, because what you want to do is you are a different entity behind the wheel of that truck, and you've got to figure out how your rhythm incorporates into the jazz that that truck is blowing. Guys, I want you to Google Mohawk Mardi Gras drummer, and you will find this gentleman omnipresent everywhere. And I'm going to post that, by the way, on the Radio Nemo Facebook page so people can get a look at who you are and what you stand for. We love having you, Chico. Welcome back. Good to have you. I'll tell Dave Nemo you said hello. And be safe out there and enjoy the hell out of